At 14:27 on June 14, 1944, Sergeant Gordon Harris crouched inside his Sherman Firefly at the eastern edge of Lingres, Normandy, observing 5 German Panther tanks advance across open fields 800 meters away. 31 years old, 8 days in Normandy, 0 tank kills. The British 7th Armoured Division had lost 42 Sherman tanks in 6 days. German Panthers and Tigers dominated every encounter. Standard Sherman 75mm guns couldn't pierce Panther frontal armor beyond 300 meters. The Germans knew this. They attacked head-on. Harris commanded the only weapon in his squadron capable of stopping a Panther at distance, the Sherman Firefly. A controversial modification that British military leadership had tried to cancel 3 times before D-Day. In January 1943, the Ministry of Supply dismissed the idea of mounting Britain's 17-pounder anti-tank gun inside an American Sherman turret. Impossible, they claimed. The gun was too large, the turret too cramped. Britain had superior tanks in development, the Challenger, the Cromwell. No need to waste effort on a hybrid no one requested. Major George Brighty at Lulworth Armoured Fighting School ignored them. He welded a 17-pounder into a Sherman turret anyway. No recoil system. The gun was rigid. The entire tank absorbed the firing shock. It barely functioned. The ministry ordered him to halt. In June 1943, Lieutenant Colonel George Wythridge joined the unauthorized project. Wythridge had been wounded at Gazala in North Africa when his Grant tank was destroyed. He understood the cost of inferior weapons in lives. Together, Brighty and Wythridge solved the recoil issue, modified the breech mechanism, cut a new gunner's hatch, relocated the radio to an external box welded on the turret rear, and removed the machine gunner's position to store 17-pounder ammunition. The ministry discovered the project and ordered them to stop again. Wythridge bypassed their authority, using connections with Major General Raymond Briggs and Claude Gibb at the Ministry of Supply. He argued the Challenger program was faltering. The Cromwell's turret ring was too narrow for the 17-pounder. The Firefly was Britain's only viable option before Normandy. In November 1943, the ministry finally approved production. By May 31, 1944, only 342 Fireflies had been completed, 1 per 4 tank troop. British armoured units entered Normandy critically short of tanks capable of engaging Panthers. The Germans adapted quickly. Within 3 days of D-Day, Panzer commanders recognized the Firefly's distinctively longer barrel. Orders went out: eliminate Fireflies first. Always. Firefly crews began camouflaging their barrels with mud, paint, and wire mesh, attempting to resemble standard Shermans from a distance. Rarely successful. Harris had been a gunner until 4 days earlier. His tank commander was killed on June 10, a Panther round through the turret near Tilly-sur-Seine. Direct hit. Commander dead before the smoke cleared. Harris assumed command. His gunner was Trooper Alec MacKillop, 24, Scottish, steady hands, keen eyesight. MacKillop had fired only 7 times in combat, 3 misses, 4 hits on German half-tracks, never a tank. The 5 Panthers spread into line formation, Panzer Lehr Division markings, advancing toward Lingres where British infantry held defensive positions. 3 standard Shermans sat behind buildings, their 75mm guns useless. Harris's Firefly was the only hope. At 800 meters, then 700, then 650, the Panthers would reach effective range in 90 seconds. Harris positioned his Firefly behind a stone wall on the village outskirts, hull down, turret exposed. The 17-pounder's barrel extended 4 feet longer than a standard Sherman, impossible to conceal completely. MacKillop sat to Harris's left, loader crouched behind them, driver in the hull. 4-man crew. No hull gunner, the position removed to accommodate the 17-pounder's massive ammunition. Each shell weighed 38 pounds, nearly double standard Sherman rounds. The Panther was Germany's response to the Soviet T-34s on the Eastern Front, 45 tons of sloped armor and firepower. The 75mm KWK-42 gun could penetrate 4 inches of armor at 1,000 meters. Frontal armor measured 80 mm at 55 degrees, effective thickness 140 mm, side armor 50 mm, rear armor 40 mm, top speed 28 miles per hour on roads. Its weaknesses were sides, rear, and mechanical reliability. German crews considered it the best medium tank in the world. The Sherman Firefly weighed 33 tons, with maximum armor of 3 inches and top speed of 25 mph, inferior to the Panther in every category except one, the 17-pounder gun. Muzzle velocity of nearly 3,000 feet per second. With standard armor-piercing capped ammunition, it could penetrate 163 mm of armor at 500 m, 150 mm at 1000 m, more than enough to punch through a Panther's frontal armor. The British had also developed armor-piercing discarding sabot rounds that could penetrate 256 mm, but those rounds were inaccurate beyond 500 m and fouled the barrel. Harris carried 12 sabot rounds, 65 standard armor-piercing rounds. The Firefly could kill Panthers if the gunner aimed true. McKillop tracked the lead Panther through his telescopic sight. Range 600 m. The Panther's commander stood in the cupola, scanning for threats. McKillop adjusted for wind, for distance, for the target's movement. The 17-pounder's recoil was violent. After firing, both gunner and commander had to blink or risk temporary blindness from the muzzle flash. The flash was so brilliant that hedros often caught fire after one shot. Undergrowth would burn. The Firefly's position would be instantly revealed. 550 m. The Panthers maintained formation, advancing at steady pace toward the village. McKillop's breathing slowed. His finger rested near the firing mechanism. Harris had trained gunners before the war. He recognized the signs. McKillop was ready, steady, calm, the kind of gunner who made shots others missed. Harris needed McKillop to make 5 perfect shots. 5 Panthers, one at a time, before the Germans identified the Firefly's position, before return fire knocked them out. Before the Panthers close to range where their own guns became lethal. The margin for error was 0. 500 meters. Harris checked his watch. 14:29, 2 minutes since the Panthers appeared. The lead Panthers commander dropped into his turret. Hatches closed. Combat ready. They knew British tanks were nearby. They were hunting. McKillop centered his sight on the lead Panthers frontal glacus, right where the armor met the turret ring, weakest point on a Panther's front. At this range, the 17-pounder round would arrive in less than 1 second. No time for the German crew to react. McKillop's hand moved to the trigger. At 14:30, McKillop fired. The 17-pounder erupted. Recoil slammed the entire tank backwards 6 inches. Brilliant orange flash blinded Harris for 2 seconds. The hedge 10 feet in front of the Firefly ignited instantly. Smoke poured from burning vegetation. Through clearing smoke, Harris saw the lead Panther. The round had struck perfectly, penetrated the glasses just below the turret ring. The Panther rolled forward 3 m, stopped. Smoke leaked from hatches. No fire, no explosion. The crew was dead inside. 4 Panthers remained. They scattered immediately. No hesitation. Professional crews. The 2nd Panther veered left. The 3rd and 4th went right. The 5th Panther reversed rapidly. Smoke from the burning hedro revealed the Firefly's position. The Germans knew exactly where the shot originated. Harris had perhaps 15 seconds before return fire. McKillop traversed right, tracked the 3rd Panther as it maneuvered. The German tank was moving at 12 miles per hour. Turning, trying to present angled armor. McKillop Led the target. Adjusted for movement. Fired. The 17-pounder roared again. Flash. Recoil. The round hit the Panther's side armor at the suspension. Penetrated. Cleanly. The Panther's ammunition detonated. Turret lifted 8 feet into the air. Flipped. Crashed down. Inverted. Orange flames erupted from the hull. 2 Panthers destroyed in 40 seconds. The remaining 3 Panthers opened fire simultaneously. 3 75mm rounds screamed toward the stone wall. One struck 20 foot left, exploded harmlessly. One hit the wall. Directly. Stone fragments showered the Firefly. The third round passed overhead, close enough that Harris heard it whistle past the turret. The Germans were ranging in. The next salvo would be accurate. Harris ordered the driver to reverse. The Firefly backed 20 feet new. Positioned behind a barn. The move bought seconds. McKillop reloaded. The loader muscled another 38-pound shell into the breech, slammed it closed. McKillop scanned for targets. The second Panther had circled left. Now it was moving toward the village from the northwest, trying to flank. The 4th and 5th Panthers advanced from the east, split. Attack. Standard German armor tactics. Divide defensive fire. McKillop chose the flanking Panther. Range 450 meters. The German tank was moving fast, presenting its frontal armor. Harder shot. McKillop tracked the movement, led the target by 3 tank lengths, fired. The round hit low, penetrated the lower glasses, struck the transmission. The Panther lurched, stopped, immobilized. Crew bailed out immediately, running for cover. 3 Panthers down, 2 mobile. The remaining 2 Panthers fired again. Both rounds struck the barn. Wood exploded. The structure collapsed partially. Dust and debris filled the air. Harris's Firefly was exposed. The barn provided no cover anymore. The Germans had them ranged. The 4th Panther was 400 m away, closing fast. Its gun traversed toward the Firefly. McKillop had perhaps 3 seconds before. That Panther fired at point-blank range. 1 shot, 1 chance. McKillop fired. First. The 17-pounder round crossed 400 m in 87 seconds. Hit the 4th Panther's gun mantlet, the thickest armor on the tank. 120 millimeters of cast steel. The round penetrated anyway, punched through the mantlet, through the gun breech into the turret. The Panther's ammunition cooked off. The explosion was instantaneous. The turret separated from the hull, flipped end over end, landed 30 feet away. 4 Panthers destroyed or disabled. 1 remained. The 5th Panther had stopped advancing. Its commander recognized the situation. 4 tanks lost in under 2 minutes. The Firefly was lethal. Continuing the attack meant death. The Panther began reversing, backing toward the tree line. Trying to break contact. Range 520 m growing. Harris made a decision. Let it go. 5 German tanks attacked. 4 destroyed or disabled. 1 retreating. Mission accomplished. The village was safe. British infantry could hold. But Harris knew what happened when German tanks escaped. They reported. They warned other units. By nightfall, every panzer commander within 10 miles would know a Firefly was operating near LYNV. They would come hunting with more tanks, with better tactics, with infantry support. McKillop kept his sight on the retreating Panther. Range 540 meters, 560. The Panther was moving faster now. 10 miles per hour in reverse. Its commander stood in the Kupa again, watching the Firefly, waiting for pursuit. German doctrine emphasized preservation of armor. Losing 4 tanks was catastrophic. Losing 5 was unacceptable. Harris weighed options. Pursue and risk. Ambush. The tree line could hide more Panthers, could hide anti-tank guns, could hide Panzer IV teams, or let it escape and face coordinated retaliation later. Neither choice was good. Harris checked ammunition. 6,117 pounder rounds remaining, 12 sabot. The Firefly's engine was running hot from constant maneuvering. Fuel gauge showed 3/4 full, enough for several more hours of operation. The 5th Panther reached the tree line 600 m. It paused. Turret traversed to left, then right. The commander was scanning, looking for threats, looking for opportunities. Then the Panther turned, presented its side armor, started moving parallel to the tree, not retreating anymore, repositioning. Harris understood immediately the German commander wasn't running. He was setting up for a long-range duel. The Panther's 75mm gun was accurate to 1000 m. At 600 m, the German had a clear shot. And now, the Panther knew exactly where the Firefly was positioned. The collapsed barn, the burning hedro, the stone wall. Every landmark was marked. Every firing position was compromised. The Panther stopped. Hull down behind a slight rise in the terrain. Only its turret visible. The gun elevated slightly, aiming. The German crew was ready, experienced, patient. They would wait for the Firefly to move to expose itself, then they would fire. One accurate shot was all they needed. The Firefly's armor couldn't stop a Panther round at this range. McKillop centered his sight on the visible turret, 610 m, difficult shot. Only the turret was exposed. Small target. Moving target. The Panther's commander knew how to fight Fireflies. Harris ordered the driver forward. The Firefly moved 15 feet. Right. New angle. Different firing position. The Panther's gun tracked the movement. Both tanks aimed at each other simultaneously. 600 m apart. Both commanders knew the next shot would decide everything. McKillop adjusted his aim. The Panther's turret was small. 20 degrees of arc visible above the rise. The rest of the tank was protected by terrain. The Panther fired first. The round screamed past the Firefly's left side, missed by 3 feet, close enough that Harris felt the pressure wave. The German gunner had anticipated the Firefly would continue moving right. McKillop didn't wait. He fired while the Panther's gun was still recoiling. The 17 pounder round flew true, struck the Panther's turret face. Right side, penetrated the armor. The turret stopped traversing. Smoke poured from the commander's cupola. The 5th Panther was finished. 1,433. 6 minutes since the engagement started. 5 German Panthers destroyed. 0 British tank losses. The 3 standard Shermans emerged from their positions behind village buildings. Their commanders had watched the entire fight. None had fired a shot. Their guns couldn't reach that far. Couldn't penetrate that armor. The Firefly had fought alone. Harris scanned the tree, looking for more threats. The Germans rarely operated in groups of 5. Panthers usually deployed in platoon of 4 or 12 to 15. Where were the others? He keyed his radio. Reported to squadron headquarters. 5 Panthers destroyed near Lindvra. Request reconnaissance of eastern approaches. Need to confirm no. Additional enemy armor in area. Squadron commander responded. Congratulations. Hold position. Infantry moving up to secure the disabled Panthers. Prisoners. If possible. Intelligence wants to examine the wrecks. Harris acknowledged. His crew waited. McKillop's hands were shaking slightly, adrenaline wearing off. The loader sat slumped against the turret wall, exhausted from muzzling 5 38-pound shells in 2 minutes. The driver reported engine temperature elevated but manageable. Harris climbed out of the turret, surveyed the battlefield. 4 burning Panthers, 1 disabled with crew escaped. The engagement had lasted 6 minutes. 5 shots fired, 5 hits. Perfect accuracy at ranges from 400 to 600 meters against Germany's best medium tank by a crew that had never destroyed a tank before today. British infantry began moving across the field, approaching the wrecked Panthers, securing the area. Harris watched them advance. He knew what would happen next. Reports would be filed. Intelligence officers would arrive. Questions would be asked. How did 1 Firefly destroy 5 Panthers? What tactics were used? What range? The engagement would be studied, analyzed, documented. But Harris also knew something else. The Germans would study it, too. They would learn that Fireflies were more dangerous than expected. They would develop new tactics, new formations. They would start hunting Fireflies with multiple tanks, with coordinated fire, with ambushes. Today's victory would make tomorrow harder. The war continued. LV was 1 village, 1 engagement. Thousands more lay ahead across France and into Germany. By 1600 hours, British intelligence officers arrived at LJV. They examined the 5 destroyed Panthers, measured penetration holes, documented damage patterns, interviewed Harris and McKillop, recorded every detail of the engagement. The intelligence report would reach 21st Army Group headquarters by evening. By the next morning, it would be distributed to every British armored regiment in Normandy. The examination revealed critical information. All 5 Panthers belonged to Panzer Lehr Division, Germany's elite armored training demonstration unit. Experienced crews, best equipment. These weren't green replacements or second-line troops. They were veterans transferred from the Eastern Front. The fact that 1 Firefly had destroyed 5 Panthers from Panzer Lehr validated every argument Wythridge and Brighty had made 18 months earlier. The Firefly worked. It could fight Germany's best tanks and win. But the engagement also revealed the Firefly's limitations. The muzzle flash had set hedge on fire, revealed position instantly. The gun's length made maneuvering difficult in villages and bowage country. The lack of a hull gunner meant reduced crew flexibility. Loading the massive 17 pounder shells exhausted loaders quickly. Sustained combat drained crew stamina faster than in standard Shermans. The Firefly was a specialist weapon, lethal when employed correctly, vulnerable when exposed. Harris's after-action report included 1 detail that would become legend among British tank crews. During the engagement, Harris never shouted fire commands. Instead, he spoke quietly to McKillop. Steady instructions. Calm corrections. Make it count. The 17-pounder ammunition was expensive. Each round cost significantly more than standard Sherman shells. Harris treated every shot as precious. McKillop responded with perfect accuracy. 5 shots, 5 kills.
Zero wasted ammunition. The engagement at LYNV was not the only Firefly success. On June 14 near Villers-Bocage, another Firefly destroyed 3 Panthers in an afternoon engagement.
At Tilly-sur-Seulles, a Canadian Firefly knocked out 2 Tigers. The pattern was clear.
When properly employed, the Firefly could dominate German armor.
But Firefly crews were learning hard lessons.
The tank's
distinctive silhouette made it a priority target.
German tank commanders were adapting tactics specifically to counter Fireflies. Panzer crews started engaging Fireflies first from maximum range.
They coordinated fire to suppress Fireflies while other tanks maneuvered. They used infantry to spot and mark Firefly positions.
By mid-June 1944, Firefly survival rates were concerning.
The tanks were effective but vulnerable.
British commanders requested more Fireflies.
The Ministry of Supply accelerated production.
By late June,
almost 400 Fireflies had been delivered.
Still not enough. Demand exceeded supply. Every regiment wanted more. Every engagement proved their value. The
hybrid tank that the ministry had tried to kill 3 times had become Britain's most valuable armored weapon in
Normandy. Harris and McKillop continued fighting.
Their Firefly survived.
LV. But Normandy was just beginning. Operation Epsom was coming. Operation Goodwood would follow. Between June 14
and August 25, 1944, Harris and McKillop's Firefly destroyed 9 more German tanks, 3 Panthers, 4 Panzer IVs, 2 Stug assault guns, 14
total tank kills in 72 days.
They survived engagements at Villers-Bocage,
Caen and Filesy.
Their Firefly took 11 hits from German fire, 8 from machine guns, 2 from Panzerfaust rockets, 1 from a 75mm tank round that
struck the turret at extreme angle and ricocheted. The crew walked away each time, repaired the tank, returned to combat. McKillop never wasted ammunition.
His accuracy remained exceptional.
47-17 pounder rounds fired in combat after long 31 hits, 66% accuracy under combat
conditions against moving targets at ranges from 200 to 700 m.
British 7th
Armored Division recognized both men.
Harris received the Military Cross in July. McKillop received the Military Medal.
The citations mentioned their actions at LV specifically.
5 Panthers destroyed. Perfect shooting. Courage under fire. But most Firefly crews weren't as fortunate.
By August 1, British forces in Normandy had lost
118 Fireflies. 43% of all Fireflies deployed. German focus on killing Fireflies first was working. Panzer commanders developed effective tactics.
They used terrain to close range
quickly. They coordinated multiple tanks to overwhelm single Fireflies. They
employed Panzerfaust teams to attack from close range where the Firefly's gun was less maneuverable.
Despite losses, Firefly effectiveness was undeniable. Intelligence analysis from June through
August showed that Fireflies accounted for 64% of all German heavy tank kills by British forces. Panthers and Tigers destroyed at nearly 3 times the rate of standard Shermans. The 17-pounder gun proved decisive. Armor-piercing, discarding sabot ammunition became more available by late July.
With sabot
rounds, Fireflies could penetrate even Tiger II frontal armor at reasonable
combat ranges. By late August, British armored regiments were receiving 2 Fireflies per 4 tank troop instead of 1.
Production had increased.
Conversion facilities in Britain were processing 60 Shermans per week into Fireflies.
The Ministry of Supply that had rejected the project twice now made it highest
priority. Winston Churchill personally monitored Firefly production numbers.
The hybrid tank had become indispensable.
Harris and McKillop fought through France into Belgium and Holland. Their Firefly was finally knocked out near Nijmegen in September during Operation Market Garden. German 88mm anti-tank gun. Direct hit to the engine compartment. The tank burned. The crew escaped uninjured.
Harrison and McKillop were reassigned to a new Firefly within 3 days.
They continued fighting until Germany surrendered in May 1945.
After the war, Harris returned to England, worked as a garage mechanic in Yorkshire.
Never spoke much about the war. McKillop went back to Scotland, became a teacher. Both men survived. Both lived quiet lives.
The engagement at LYNV became a footnote in regimental histories. The Sherman Firefly's impact on the war
was profound. Between D-Day and VE Day, approximately 2,100 Fireflies were converted and deployed.
They served with British, Canadian, Polish, and Free
French armored units across Northwest Europe and Italy. Fireflies destroyed an estimated 900 German tanks and assault guns, Panthers, Tigers, Panzer IVs. No other Allied tank matched this record against German heavy armor. The 17 pounder equipped Firefly accounted for more German heavy tank kills than any other Allied armored vehicle in the European theater. The engagement at LYNV on June 14 became a training case study. British tank schools analyze Harris and McKillop's tactics. 5 Panthers destroyed in 6 minutes. Perfect accuracy under pressure. Proper use of terrain. Fire discipline. The engagement demonstrated what Fireflies could accomplish with skilled crews. It validated every argument for the program's existence. Tank commanders studied the battle for decades. The tactics Harris employed became standard doctrine for Firefly operations. But the deeper lesson was about innovation in wartime. The Firefly almost didn't exist. Rejected 3 times by military bureaucracy. Built by 2 officers who ignored orders, approved only when conventional solutions failed, the hybrid tank that nobody wanted became the weapon that British armored forces needed most.
Sometimes the impossible solution is the
only solution.
The Ministry of Supply that tried to kill the project 3 times eventually made it the highest priority program in British tank production.
The 17 pounder gun continued service after World War II. It equipped British tanks through the early Cold War. The Centurion tank mounted an improved version. The gun's basic design influenced post-war anti-tank weapon development for 2 decades.
The Firefly itself was retired by 1946, replaced by newer British tank designs like the Comet and later Centurion. Most were scrapped for steel. Only a few survive in museums today.
The Tank
Museum at Bovington displays a fully restored Sherman Firefly. The Imperial War Museum has one example.
The Musée de Blende in France preserves another. These are the last surviving specimens of the controversial hybrid that transformed armored combat in Northwest Europe. Harris passed away in 1987 at age 74. He worked as an auto mechanic in Yorkshire for 40 years after the war. McKillop died in 1993 at age 73. He taught mathematics at a high school in Edinburgh. Neither man wrote memoirs.
Neither sought fame beyond the medals they earned in 1944.
They were tank crew.
They performed their duty, survived, and returned home.
The encounter at Lindra lasted a single day in a long war. 5 Panthers destroyed, 6 minutes of fighting, a mere footnote in regimental logs.
But for the British infantry defending that village, and for every tanker who learned from their example, it was significant.
If this story touched you as it touched us, do us a favor, hit that like button. Each like signals YouTube to share this story with more people. Subscribe and activate notifications. We're uncovering forgotten stories from dusty archives every day, tales of tank commanders and gunners who faced impossible odds with rejected weapons and remarkable skill. Real people, real courage. Drop a comment now and tell us where you're watching from. Are you in the United States, Canada, or Australia? Our community spans the globe. You're not just a viewer, you're part of keeping these memories alive. Share your location. Mention if a family member served. Just let us know you're here. Thank you for watching and for helping ensure Harris and McKillop don't fade into silence. These men deserve to be remembered, and you're helping make that happen.